Hello, everyone. You see, this is the time my cat just decided to pop up behind me. I'm Dr. Diana Bitner of True Women's Health. We're keeping it real here at True, here to talk about the holidays. Hey, Celia.
Hi, I'm Dr. Celia Egan. I'm the internal medicine side of our practice at True Women's Health.
So, we're here to talk about holiday resilience. And I think I care about this because, I mean, not only do we hear about our patients and everyone, what a busy, challenging time this can be, I'm right there with you. Family stuff, just moved. I mean, we all have stuff, and I'm not sleeping enough and lots to do. What about you?
I mean, totally. I mean, even I was laughing this morning because during, we have obviously we have like staff meetings, and I remember thinking in my head, oh, can I just get to December 26th? Like I've been in the thick of Halloween and Thanksgiving, and we're like in the final stretch for Christmas, and of course work doesn't stop, right? Everything keeps going, and I also feel it just along with all of the rest of our patients.
Right. And I mean, like you, I love what I'm doing. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Absolutely
But
not.
sometimes it's a lot. I look forward to going to sleep tonight. Like it's
Yeah.
just I kind of look forward to that. But again, there's nowhere I'd rather be. And talking to you and to everyone out there about holiday resilience, what I would challenge people listening to do who are listening live, or I guess even after the fact, is I'd love you to think about a challenge that you have at the holidays and then to share it. It gets conversation going, and maybe there's somebody out there who just doesn't want to talk about it or wouldn't want to bring it up, and you might be helping her as well. So, we'd love to hear your comments, hear your challenge, and let's all dive into it together.
Yeah. Great. Let's get started.
Let's get started. So, we talked about unwrapping holiday challenges. And, one of those can be if this is a time of your life where you're also starting to go through hormone changes, be it perimenopause, be it menopause. We've had a lot of new patients in the last little bit at True who are like, why didn't anyone tell me about the roller coaster of estrogen?
Mhm,
You see
mhm.
that too, I'm sure.
I mean, of course, and I think it sometimes is a slow creep. People just start noticing some changes in their menstrual cycles that, of course, they're so busy, but like just start to notice their brain doesn't feel quite as clear, their mood just doesn't feel quite as uplifted, or they don't have as much control over their thoughts. Maybe they gained a little weight sort of out of nowhere. It is a little bit of a creep. And then a lot of the times you just feel so frazzled because you're like, where did this even come from?
Right. And a patient the other day was like, I just feel, like I don't feel like working out. I really don't feel like decorating the tree, And I said, there's a name for that. It's called anhedonia, the opposite of hedonism, the opposite of self pleasure. And I said, so this is your tell. Your tell is you don't like to do the things you normally like to do. Let's do a deeper dive into what's going on. And we went through, the whole conversation around one of the things that makes you feel more stress is low estrogen. So it makes your brain chemicals go down and you just don't have as much, zippity doo dah for those holiday events.
Yeah, and then it sometimes can snowball because then the less you feel excited about working out, or maybe you're drinking a little bit of alcohol to find a little bit of pleasure. Now you're not sleeping. Now that progresses those symptoms. So it can sort of just start this snowball effect towards just overall not feeling well.
Yeah. And I went through that formula that I always talk about with serotonin. And I said, you're spending more brain chemical on, life events. And she said, oh my gosh, we've got a lot of stuff going on in the family. Her estrogen is down. And I said, you make them when you sleep. She said, I am not sleeping. Either I can't fall asleep or I get in bed, my mind just goes crazy, or I wake up and I can't get back to sleep. And she said, genetically, everyone in her family, her mom, her sister, hit menopause and really had a hard time emotionally.
Yeah. And I think it can be so hard too, because a lot of times we're not even focused on ourselves. We're focused on our families, work, getting kids' school stuff done, getting presents for the million people on our list, right? And so it can just be so hard to like prioritize ourselves and getting the basic stuff in that we need.
Hmm. And I think, I hear you talk about this too, those temptations, how some of the challenges are those temptations with there being alcohol around or sweets around, you know, even in the last couple of weeks, I've really focused on cutting out sugar, and I had a little bit of a bundt cake taste at work today. And oh my God, it just hit me. It was so good. I couldn't resist it, but it could just start a spiral.
And it's really interesting because a lot of the times there's different parts of our brain that are at work when we're deciding to eat different foods. right? So if I'm deciding to have maybe like a salad with some protein and some bunch of vegetables on top, that's one part of my brain versus a separate part of my brain, which is like screaming now for a Christmas cookie when I see that. That Christmas cookie part of our brain, right, gets prepped, and it gets prepped from all of our senses. And right, we maybe aren't even thinking of Christmas cookies, but all of a sudden we have that smell, or maybe we see those beautiful colors, or maybe we hear just even the unwrapping of a wrapper, or someone just starts talking about their family member loves decorating Christmas cookies, and all of a sudden that part of our brain gets triggered on. So it can be really helpful even just to acknowledge some of where your brain is going, right?
Right.
Hey, I get it. I just saw some Christmas cookies and now that's all I can think about. I'm really not hungry. I really just had lunch. My belly is full. I don't need anything else. But now that's where my brain's at. Why that can be helpful is because you can fuel up on real food, right? And kind of support your body, and then acknowledge the times when you're ready to have a treat, because that's important too.
Yep, exactly. And for me, like I really, even again for myself, taken that to heart. And I've really realized when I want sweets is when I'm overwhelmed and I want that dopamine.
Yeah.
It's like when you quick flip to Instagram or I'm going to have a cookie or it's
Yes.
that quick little surge of newness, right? To
Yes.
take me
Yes.
out of, I'm overwhelmed with all the things. So,
Yes.
and I'm like, nope, okay, I'm going to make a list. I'm not going to go to Instagram. I'm not going to, just to distract.
Yeah, I mean, we fall very quickly into those habit patterns, right? Particularly when our brain feels uncomfortable with stress, discomfort, right? Anxiety. It just is so, our brain just so feels so comforted falling back into those patterns again and again.
Yes. And again, I love how you talk about dopamine. Could you share a bit how you think about that?
In terms of just eating or how we go the back and forth.
Yeah, I guess both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, we're thinking about those two different parts of our brain. Our front part of our brain is what I always say makes us human, right? So this is where critical thinking lives, empathy, logic, right? So this is where, when we're with our patients, I always say where we're living, right? I'm telling you, about how to lose weight and, how to get your cholesterol levels better and what that means in terms of lifestyle changes. And a lot of times patients are like, yeah, I totally get it.
Mhm.
I'm following the logic. I understand. And let's be honest, what woman doesn't understand a lot of that information,
Right.
right? They know kind of how to eat, and they know. No, I always make a joke. No woman comes to my office and is like, Dr. Egan, I shouldn't eat Christmas cookies. Thank God you told me. Like,
Exactly.
we all get it,
We
right?
know. Right.
We know, right? But then there's the back part of your brain, which is being run off of dopamine. And what happens when you have that pleasure center, so maybe it's the flick of Instagram or all that sweetness on your tongue, is you get a dopamine hit, which ends up being an inhibitory signal to your logic side. And what comes with logic is contentment. That's just that feeling of feeling at ease. So, a lot of the times when you're just constantly hitting that dopamine circuit, we're moving away from contentment, which draws us more just to wanting more dopamine. And again, it creates a little bit of that vicious cycle.
No, I love how you say that because we at True we focus on women knowing why, right? If we know why we have a signal or why we fall into a habit, I really think it can help us pull out before we get there.
Yeah. And that balance of sex hormones is so imperative because we've all been there, right? Maybe we were pregnant or around our menstrual cycle where we just had those cravings that were unsatiable. That's a lot of times that back part of your brain just having a little bit more power. And that can become a little bit more intense during perimenopause time.
Exactly. And we talk about hormone changes like that perfect storm. So we have the symptoms, right, of let's say poor sleep, night sweats, eh, mood changes that make us maybe crave. But then we also have the physiologic changes. So as our estrogen drops, we become more insulin resistant.
Right.
So there's then the medical side of craving.
Yeah. And it does again, of course, creates that vicious cycle of the more you have, the more you want, the more your blood sugars kind of bounce all over the place, the more you feel more settled, kind of trying to chase your blood sugars and get them back up again. And again, it just sort of creates a little bit of the cycle, which can lead to such a challenge because it does feel like kind of the outside Christmas world isn't truly being supportive, right? We have late Christmas parties. They're usually filled with sugar and alcohol. We have
Right.
1,000 things to do. We have a lot of expectations that we put on ourselves. And so it can just feel like the Christmas season can be fueled sort of not in our favor.
Exactly. So again, if any of you out there have some of these same challenges, we'd love you to share them. But, I think then the next step is like, how do we think about emotional wellness? And
Yeah.
when I think about emotional wellness, I guess what do you think about when you think about emotional wellness?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of seeking that contentment, right? I think about it as being on a boat, like in rocky water, and being able to kind of stand up on the boat, right? Being able to handle some waves that are coming
Mhm.
our way versus just immediately kind of tipping over. That's a little bit of how I think about emotional wellness. How about you?
Well, I think about coping. Like, there's actually a lot of work that's been done about women who cope well.
Hmm.
And so women who cope well, they tend to do a couple things really well. Number one, they believe they deserve to be happy. And so if we can have intention, we believe that we deserve it. We believe that it's possible. Number two, we have a support network around us. And so it's not just practical things like who's going to pick up the kids, who's going to get dinner, who's going to do stuff, but that emotional support group is so important to maintain. And number three, we ask for help when we need it. So many women like, I got this, I got this, I got this. And
Yeah, got it.
yeah, I got it. But then, I say, if your friends needed help, would you help them? Well, of course. Well, why
Of
wouldn't you ask
course.
them for help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I love the first one because I actually just am in the midst of reading a book about epigenetics, which epigenetics is why we turn on certain genes or turn them off. So if you're
Okay.
born with your genes, which is basically the code that was given to you from your parents, not all that code gets turned on and turned off at the same time. And there's different things that you can do one in your environment or different actions that you can have that can change your epigenetics. But one of the things that they talked about that was super interesting is people who exercise, obviously a lot gets changed within our epigenetics for the positive, but even people who start to think about exercising actually have the beginning of changing some of their epigenetics. And so even believing that you deserve to be happy is probably, I can't prove this, but if we look at some of the other evidence, neurochemically putting your brain in a different position, which is just so fascinating.
It's
And
so
you may
fascinating.
hear that voice that's like, no, you don't, right? But you got to just let it leave your brain like a train leaving the station, right?
I
And
love
just
that.
keep going over and over again about how you truly deserve to be happy.
Right. I had a patient that I talked about this with. And as I talked about, I said, do you believe that you deserve to be happy? And she's got really tearful and quiet. And she said, I
Yeah.
don't. So
Yeah.
sorry about my kitty, you guys. So, Louis, but he believes he deserves to be happy.
Yeah, that's right. Most
So,
parents do.
yeah, and so it was really interesting, and that really allowed us to uncover some things about why she didn't believe that and how we could start to work with her belief system. And she started seeing Ashley at our office to really work on changing, what's true, what's not true, and to work on her self-perception.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, that was something that woman wasn't born with, right? She
Mm.
wasn't born with the belief that she didn't deserve to be happy. That was trained inside of her from probably a variety of different things,
Yep,
right? That we all
yep,
have these different life paths that have taken us on our journey. And it can be just so helpful to us to even get started with understanding kind of your different things that have happened in your life and how you can sort of deviate out some of those, differentiate some of those emotions and work on them for
yeah.
the better.
And then I think of another patient when I think of number two, have a support network. She was in a position of, let's say, she was an executive in a company, and she just didn't feel it was appropriate to be friendly with the women she worked with, and she like worked 15 hours a day for years. She wasn't happy in her marriage. She wasn't home a lot. She didn't have time for girlfriends working the hours she did and traveling, and she just and unfortunately she developed breast cancer, and she's just a dear patient of mine. I knew her for years. She's passed. And she said to me, don't ever sacrifice on keeping your friends and family close. Don't. She essentially died alone, and she said, don't do what I did. Encourage every woman to keep a support network.
Yeah. And I mean, we talk to women of so many different life phases all the time. And I can promise you, your friend wants you to call her. Like we hear this all the time that we'll have a friend
Yep,
that, I don't know, she's busy, she has kids, they're working. I'm like, I promise you, if we all just called each other and
that's right.
even sent a like little like I love you text or I'm
Yep.
thinking of you, that I promise you that it would be okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
because we hear from all these different patients.
I know. My good friend Melissa texted me today. She said, a memory popped up just thinking of you. How are you? I'm like, oh, I miss you. I haven't talked to her in probably 3 or 4 weeks, maybe
Yeah,
longer. And she's one of my dearest friends. It made my day. So, Melissa, if you're listening, thank you. Thank you.
yeah,
It's so important to keep that network close.
yeah. And then asking for help. I feel like this can be a really hard step, right? Particularly when we're trying to get so much stuff done. And it feels as though we should be able to wrap all of our presents and buy all of our gifts and do all the cards and do all the things. But it can provide an opportunity almost to be curious to yourself to say, why am I not asking for help? Right? What's blocking me from asking my husband to help me wrap these presents, or what's blocking me from asking, another coworker to help out with this project so I can get to my kids' Christmas program, right? Like, and being a little just more open to and curious to understanding why we're not getting there, maybe in a self-forgiving way.
Yeah. And then it feel so good. I just asked someone to help me with the project and it felt she was excited to be involved in the project. So it's like, it's really okay, and you never know what other gifts you might get when you involve other people. So speaking of other people, I see Michelle has a question. The best way to make an appointment to call the office online, it says there is not availability for the perimenopause program. So it's true, we're very careful. We don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So for patients, we keep a certain limit on how many patients we're taking care of, so we are delivering that top quality service. Our complete program has openings. It's not closed. There's no waiting list. We're getting people in as they call. But for our basic program that covers female health, more focused on female health and menopause, perimenopause, we do have a waiting list. And so every week we're going through that, opening it up and offering those spots to people. So if you want to join us for the basic program, please get on the list. I promise there'll be a call coming, and we'll just do our best to take care of you. In the meantime, this is why we have programs like this, so we can still reach out and offer you information. We have a book called I Want to Age Like That, which is a book on perimenopause and menopause. So we welcome you to order the book, and there's a workbook, and at least to get started in thinking about how you don't have to suffer.
Yeah, and I think the book is surprisingly helpful with a lot of other medical things that even if you choose that our practice is not someplace that you want to go, that at least you could maybe, have some support for some decisions about treatment options with whatever provider you see. Oh, and yeah.
Oh, good. And
Yeah.
even the symptom circle, I wish I had one in my hand right now, but the symptom circle recently really helped someone. It has the 7 symptoms of menopause around the outside and what a woman can do to feel better or worse. And so again, it can be so helpful at this time to know, number one, you're not crazy. Number two, this happens to every woman, no matter what age it happens to her. But feel free to go on the website, check out the symptom circle. You can click on it and get some good information about why you're having symptoms and what you can do to feel better.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that one of the challenges that women talk a lot about with us in the office, and in addition to emotional wellness, is just like learning how to eat and handle eating. And we touched on this a little bit, but I'm a big believer of thinking about mindful eating. And mindful eating is sort of just our way of paying attention to the food that we're eating on purpose, moment by moment, without any sort of judgment. We live, our American culture in the United States has these like kind of extremes with relationship with food. Either we're like all in and almost gluttonous to everything's naughty and, something is, completely off limits and restrictive, which is kind of unique to the American culture. Like we always compare ourselves to France a little bit in terms of food culture. And, they choose to sort of enjoy their food a little bit differently, but not overindulge, which is kind of a little bit more of where we're hoping to get people. And it can be really interesting and fun to go through different mindful eating exercises and just even slowing down with foods that we're truly enjoying, just so that we can really hold on to the flavor and taste in our mouths and pay attention to sort of our hunger cues and learning to listen to our body. That way we really can create a pattern of having no judgment when we're eating. So we learn to eat what we want, stop when we're full or stop when we're content, and then move on, right? It's really not the couple of bites of dessert and candies that are a problem. It's the kind of continuous kind of mindless eating that tends to lead our down these pathways of insulin resistance and weight gain and sort of chronic disease, all the things that we get concerned about. So taking some time to think about mindful eating can be really helpful. And we just did a mindful eating class yesterday, which was super fun and
So what
exciting.
happened in the class? I wasn't able to
Yeah,
absorb.
so we did some education surrounding just like a little bit. We talked about dopamine and the front part of your brain and understanding why we're doing what we did. We did what they call the raisin exercise, which
What's
is
that?
where you basically like re-eat a raisin, but you do all these different ways of observing it, basically, and using all of your senses of and seeing if it changes the way that the raisin tastes in comparison to what you've thought in the past. And
Awesome.
then we did some different taste testing with some cookies. And again, it's just kind of bite for bite, monitoring how you feel. And it was really interesting and fun. I hope so. I don't know if anyone's listening today, but it was a fun thing. We hope to do it again because I think it's just such a powerful piece of any, weight journey program or anyone who's trying to get a handle on healthy eating.
I know you had quite a few people there last night. Like, how do they respond?
I think some people, and I will fully admit that Dr. Egan 10 years ago, when I kind of got dragged kicking and screaming into this, gave this the biggest eye roll. But now I'm like completely committed to this and such a believer. Because at first, when you're kind of in the middle of it, you're kind of like really like a couple of bites, and it feels so disingenuine, but the more you sort of get involved, you're like, yeah, actually, I do sort of feel content with this. And you do develop just a better relationship with food, right? And a lot of the times, my first time of doing some mindful eating exercises out, and I know Dr. Bitner can commiserate. I mean, I was right after I had gotten done with residency. And when you're a doctor in training, which is being a doctor in training, I mean, you're working all the time. You barely have time to eat. And so you're just like shoveling food in your mouth just so you can get on to the next case, the next patient.
Right.
So one of the exercises was like to hold food in your mouth. And I like couldn't do it. I had trained all the muscles in my mouth just to immediately, when something hit my tongue, just to like have all the muscles move it into the back. And I was like choking and gagging. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like what is happening to me? And it just speaks to how we've trained our bodies and our minds just to do so much with food. And it can just be so helpful just to slow down, pay attention, and ask yourself if you even like something, right? A lot of the times when people do this, they're like, you know what? I don't even really like mashed potatoes. Why am I eating these? And it's like, you're eating it because it just gets wrapped up into kind of what we believe we should like. And it just gives you permission to start making some different choices.
That's awesome. Well, I see
So,
Vicky and Lisa would come if we had
yeah,
to.
we'll definitely do it again sometime, right after Christmas. I think that'd be fun.
Oh, that'd be good. I'll be there.
Yeah. All right.
That's good.
All right. So in addition, so we're talking about eating healthy. We've talked about emotional eating, but we want to also think about our physical wellness.
So I had to look at my list to make sure we're staying on track. It's just so fun. We can just talk about this
We
all
can talk
night.
for hours.
Yeah. So when we talk about symptoms, again, number one is hot flashes and night sweats. I mean, this can be a time of the year where they're triggered by the extra sugar, the extra alcohol, being too busy, not drinking your water. But there's that, estrogen that the estrogen changes that happen that are such a challenge. So when estrogen falls, the thermostat gets really overactive. And, today it really helped someone when we talked about why that was happening. And she's like, it's so good to know why, that I'm not crazy. I just thought maybe it was too many blankets, but I used those same amount of blankets last month. So here's the symptom circle. So if we go to hot flashes, night sweats, thank you, Missy, for doing this. It's awesome. So hot flashes and night sweats are triggered by, see if I can read it, low estrogen, of course, overdressing. Can you see it? I can't. Sleep deprivation, cigarettes.
Caffeine, cigarettes.
Thanks. Because caffeine, sugar, alcohol, stress, and being overweight. This is all about what are those things that trigger the thermostat to either think it needs to turn on the air conditioning or reasons that the body thinks it's hot when it's not. So for example, carrying extra weight, the core temperature can go up quicker. If you're dehydrated, your core temperature can go up quicker. And so how do we feel better? Number one is, oh, thanks, Missy, is having just even a sip of cold water, getting that core temperature down as fast as we can. This can be a reason to think about, I'm pretty comfortable in my skin, but maybe if I lose even 3 to 5 pounds, it can make a difference for my night sweats. Meditation, that metered breathing, because if we go into flight or fight, we're more likely to have a hot flash. First time I had a hot flash was I was like, I forgot something, like I can't remember what it was now, but it was that adrenaline rush and I got a flush. And I was like, what is up with this? Um, if we, if estrogen is safe for you, taking estrogen can work even within a couple days. It's amazing how quickly it can reset that thermometer. And acupuncture actually can be helpful for hot flashes. But I want to take this time too to remind people of the new medication that just came out. It's called Veoza. It's by a company called Astellas, Bayer Pharmaceutical. Hopefully very soon we'll have its drug approved and it will be out as well. But what these drugs are is they're non-estrogen treatment options for hot flashes and night sweats. Had a patient in today who had breast cancer in the past. It would not be safe for her to take systemic estrogen. And so she started the drug Veoza, and within 5 days, her hot flashes are gone. And she said, I had no idea how sleep deprived I was. She says, I'm now sleeping. My husband even videoed me sleeping and snoring in a deep sleep. And she said, I want to shout it from the rooftops. Like, I had no idea. She
Yeah.
looks better. She feels better. So anyways, hot flashes are a big deal.
Yeah. And I think sometimes seeing lists can be overwhelming, but you got to remember a lot of this stuff feeds off of itself, right? So the less sugar, less alcohol you eat or consume, more likely you'll lose some weight, right? So you're sort of killing two birds with one stone. The better that you sleep, the more likely you are to lose weight, right? So prioritizing your sleep can be helpful. So even though it can feel a little bit like a long list, a lot of these things really sort of stumble, kind of weave in and out of each other.
I love that. Like, as you drink less water, you have more hot flashes. But if you drink more water, you have fewer hot flashes. You'll sleep better. You feel like working out again. So it's like, yeah, the lack of all snowball together, but
Right.
treatment of one then helps you treat everything else.
Right. Right. Yes. Oh,
She's
we're pulling
spinning
it
the
through.
circle again.
Yes.
Body complaints. You want to talk about this?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think a lot of the time, some of the things that I particularly hear from patients that when they're coming into our office can be just, not being able to sleep, gained a little bit of weight. Their mood can be sort of all over the place, and we're sort of bebopping around to a lot of different things, but in particular, body complaints, right? So, this is your sort of, I don't know, the sensations that our body feels when it's not settled. So, a lot of times we feel like our heart is racing, we can just feel sweaty, a little uneasy. In particular, something that I sort of learned while working at True is the influence of estrogen sort of on our joints and our fascia, which is sort of the tissue that connects our muscle to our bones and kind of just keeping our whole skeletal muscle system together, and how imperative it is for estrogen to be involved with that. And as that changes, a lot of women will talk about not being able to tolerate certain exercises, or they feel really tight and stiff. And with sort of different changes to regulate those hormones, how helpful that can be. And the power of adding in stretching to a regimen, right? So before, if you were a runner and you just kind of like did all your running and that was it and that was great, right? That's just not the case anymore. You really truly have to add in stretching to sort of get your body back to where it needs to be, sort of not pain, more settled and feeling better.
Exactly. And this is where that hydration and exercise, and again, even just coping better, like saying, okay, I feel this way because, okay, I'm going to do this because. So it's just being very mindful about that, issue about being stiff, and then looking at it maybe as a gift of, okay, this will make me be more
Yeah.
purposeful, more
Yeah.
intentional.
And one of the things during the holidays that I always feel like I have to, mention and talk about, we love exercise. I would never tell a woman not to exercise, but there's different levels of intensity of exercise. And if you're running, I always say burning hot, right? Like you had a to-do list, you're super stressed, you've had deadlines, you were at a party, Christmas party last night. That is not the day that you're going to make your personal record. And that's okay, right? Maybe that's a day that you go for a walk, you do some yoga, maybe a light Peloton, right? And having fun, right? Singing along to the music, right? That still counts as exercise, and giving yourself permission just to have a bit of a more chill exercise stretching day over just like keep pounding the pavement because your body just may not be ready.
Right. And, we've seen a lot of women who I would say are over exercising. They say, hey, I'm training for a triathlon. I'm not eating very much, but I'm working 12 hours a day. I have 3 kids. my husband's out of town for work and I'm gaining weight. What the heck? There's almost this anger that comes out, like I'm doing everything right and it's not working, and I'm angry. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, when your body is in total stress mode, the only thing it can do is store calories, even if
Yeah.
you underfeed it, right? It's just crazy. So how about some restorative yoga? How about, just focusing on one change? Let's say you're getting more sleep. And so I love this concept of over exercising, under eating. And I know you talk about that a lot too.
Yeah. And again, I think a lot of times it's just being open to listen to our bodies, right? Like if we're really achy and stiff, right, that just may be a day that we need to stretch and just allow our body some time to sort of heal from whatever sort of exercise that we had. Um, it's, the a woman's body is really complicated because we do amazing things.
That's right. I love
Understatement,
that.
right? But I mean,
Understatement.
we just have to respect that and listen to it, listen to our body when it's asking for a bit of a break.
Right. It's been a relief for me just talking about exercise is the whole concept of zone 2. If you look at exercise with 5 zones, and I usually love to live in zone 4. That's a hit workout that's going as fast and hard as I can. And, or strength training. And so it's like, but really learning the only time we burn fat is in zone 2, where we're breathy, we're sweaty, we could still talk, but maybe not relax sentences. If we were on the phone with someone, they would know we were working out. Zone 2 is that time that our mitochondria, our cells, learn how to burn fat, and it really makes a difference. And it's almost been a relief to do more zone 2 work and not have it be so stressful.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's been a great thing. We also talk about eating and drinking at holiday parties. I know you've got so many tips for that. One that I love to share is, instead of a full force alcohol drink, dilute it with some club soda.
Yeah.
Have a true spritzer. But
Yeah.
I know you've got lots of tips and tricks for this.
Yeah, we talk a lot about doing different things, and I think we'll save that for our takeaway tips, which I think we're headed into next.
Sounds good. Let's do
Yeah.
that.
All right. I think we have a lot of tips today because it's Christmas.
Well, there you
Right.
go. So number 1, I would say prioritize sleep. Sleep is everything. When we sleep, we can think straight. We're not craving sugar as much. We can function better. We have better moods. So again, good sleep is the best gift. I know sometimes it feels really selfish, like I should probably just wrap 3 or 4 more presents, or I should stay up and make, food for tomorrow. Like, no, just go to sleep, because this is a time where your family needs you to take care of yourself. And it helps our immune system. I mean, we can't talk about it enough, right?
I can't make another promise to you other than your body would appreciate more sleep than we probably give it.
Yeah. And 7 hours is that magic number. If you can, for most nights, get 7 hours, you're doing good.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Number 2.
Save alcohol for special occasions. Don't use it for sleep. It can worsen your sleep quality and make hot flashes and your moods worse. Choose a cup of tea instead.
Yes, and maybe some chamomile, even without honey, without anything, which I prefer honey. But again, it's not having that little bit of sugar before bed, so our sugar goes up and then crashes, and then that wakes us up. Yeah. So try to have that cup of tea even without any sweetener in it.
And it's really interesting. So again, thinking about some of the habit loop patterns that we fall into, there is something about the hand to mouth that comes with alcohol that feels quite comforting. So to tell your brain, right, like we're not having any alcohol, even though we've had alcohol every night for the past, 6 weeks, can be a bit daunting. And so again, starting with just small amounts and kind of bringing it down, or choosing like a cup of tea, again, to give yourself a little bit of that hand to mouth can feel really oddly comforting. I know it's sort of a bizarre concept, but smokers also talk about this, right? Of using that hand to mouth as being something that they find some satisfaction with that isn't exactly the drug effect.
But there's even the ceremony of it, right? Like I'm going to sit down and do this. So I'll, a cup of tea. I love even some kombucha, for example, to get some probiotic that tastes yummy. It's fizzy. Put some kombucha in a wine glass. So you have the swirl and the experience.
Totally. And actually, there's a lot of fun drinks that are out there now. I know we've talked a little bit about them on some other episodes. Hum or kombucha is one. Recess is another brand that I really like. I'm like the person that doesn't, tries to avoid sugar like the plague. And I find that one to be pretty sugar even. So there's a couple of kind of cool brands out now that, again, can give you some of that ceremony without the alcohol.
Nice.
Better
I love
sleep.
that concept, ceremony.
All right. Number 3.
Adopt a stress management practice. Be ready for those moments when you lose it. Like, what are you going to do to bring yourself down? And I love the concept of, for me, I say stop to myself and think about what I'm so thankful for. I can't stand it. That little bit of gratitude can pull us out of flight or fight. Again, there's so much data to prove this. I love the book, The Restoration Response. It's just so important to have something to do. Maybe it's box breathing.
Yeah.
You take 4 in, hold for 4, down for 4, hold for 4.
Yeah.
And just having that little bit. Talked with someone today, before you go into a meeting at work and you're scattered and you're afraid you're not going to be able to focus, or you're not going to remember, you're not going to just do that little bit of box breathing before you go into the meeting. So you're settled. And like you say, you're focused on you're using your adult brain, your logic, your memory.
Yeah. And I think some of this is a bit being self-forgiving, right? Like a lot of times we enter the spiral of, oh, like I should be prepared for this meeting. I shouldn't feel stressed out. Like I'm, there's something wrong with me. And it's like, use some self-compassion to say, look, this meeting is going to be stressful. All right. Right. How am I going to give myself I always call it like a wind down plan, right? Of winding down some of our even body sensations that we're having just to get us through the next steps, because you're not going to gain anything by having guilt surrounding your emotions that you have. They are what they are, right? And then we can work on the next chapter of understanding that. But just letting go of any of the guilt that you have for having those emotions, for being there, can be really helpful.
And nobody would probably even know that we weren't as prepared as we're so hard on ourselves. It's just crazy. So
Totally.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. Give yourself some grace.
All right. Number 4, before bed, make sure you stretch and take a moment to reflect on what was good about the day. Gratitude helps calm the mind and set you up for good sleep.
So true. We've got to get into that zone. Like I talked to some, like it's about, remember when we were putting our kids to bed and you're still in the middle of all that, we want to get them calmed down and then they
Yes.
fall into sleep. And if we don't give ourselves a chance to wind down and have our sleep, habits and our sleep hygiene, like with kids reading books and getting sleepy and, then you tiptoe out of the room and hopefully they're asleep. We need to treat ourselves the same way we treat our kids.
Yeah. And I'm going to doctor mom and say, please put down your phones, right? Because that usually does not lead to your brain calming down. It usually leads to the rev up, even though, you may not be looking at something that you particularly believe is exhilarating, right? But it just so very quickly leads to our brain sort of getting revved up.
Agree. And even that blue light makes us think it's time to wake up,
Totally. Yeah.
not go to sleep. Number 5, have an intention for the season. I find this so important. It's thinking about having an intention as you go into, again, what's here, the season. So I think about January 1st, how do I want to feel? How do I want to look back at the holiday season? And I want it to be stress-free and easy for family. And I want, so it's like I'm very clear on my intention. It's almost like, a gymnast practices the trick in her head before she does it, right? Like it's practicing that event before it happens. When you go into a family dinner and people are coming in that haven't been together for a while, just imagine how you want to be, how you want to feel when you leave that event. That visualization is so powerful, and it really helps you flow into being true to yourself in an event that's might be stressful.
Yeah. And I think it can be just so helpful to then let go of the things that, we can get so bogged down in the details of that exact present or the exact card or, that exact meal. And it's like, if you have intention, then it makes not all those cards are going to fall your way. That's just not how life works. And so, but if you have intention of focusing on the things that you really want, then you can let go of some of the other stuff that doesn't get done because we can't do it all.
Yeah. Like I want joy. I want connection, right? I want good memories. I want to share. It doesn't really matter exactly what the gift is if it was given with joy and good intention. So I love this concept. I think it's so important.
Great. All right. I think we're going to switch some tips to some weight management tips up next. Okay. Number 1. So, okay, we're getting ready to go to all these Christmas parties, lots of Christmas meals. I think I've got like 4 or 5 already on my calendar, right? Tip number 1, fill up on some raw veggies before you go. So remember, when you eat a sugar that goes into your mouth, there's a whole other process before it actually enters your bloodstream. And one of those sort of processes is that it goes into your small intestine, and then your microbiome basically runs through that sugar first, and then it presents sugar up to be absorbed into your portal system, which then goes into your liver, which then goes to be processed. If you eat a bunch of raw vegetables first, you don't uptake as much sugar as if you didn't. So if you're going out to have a little bit more alcohol, have some sugar than you'd want before, maybe lunch should be a big plate of raw vegetables, right? Maybe a little bit of dip just to kind of get it down. Or before if dinner's at 8 and you're going at 4 and you're kind of hungry, have some cucumbers and broccoli and really fiber-filled raw veggies. That will really be helpful.
It works every time.
And if you're, going to a family party, bring the veggie tray. Then you have them.
There you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
number 2. Don't skip a meal to save on calories before a party. Again, thinking about these two parts of our brain that are battling each other out to sort of keep it together and not overconsume highly processed foods, highly sugary foods. A lot of the times we have this idea that we just don't have breakfast and don't have lunch, then we'll eat whatever we want. A lot of the times that doesn't end up working in our favor, and we tend to way overconsume the amount of calories. So if you had, a protein-filled breakfast and lunch or some raw veggies before you go to a party, or even a protein shake at 4 or 5 before you go, so you're feeling, not starving, right? Then you're able to enjoy a few things and not feel like you're missing out. And that can be helpful. Oh, and that's tip number 3. Yeah. Adding in the protein shake a couple of hours before your event. Again, you're not doing yourself a favor by saving the calories from the protein shake and really trying to just add in some protein so you feel satisfied.
Well, again, it's to have intention for enjoying the food at the party. Is your intention to go fill your belly so you're stuffed leaving, or is your intention to go and sample some yummy treats that you normally wouldn't have and enjoy the company of the people you're going to be with? So you're able to really meet your intention if you're not starving.
Yeah. All right. Number 4, don't be too strict, right? So there's a lot of different things culturally that intertwine holidays and food, right? A lot of things that can make us feel good inside in terms of memories, right? Like our grandma making us cookies or times that make us feel good. Don't be too strict. Pick a couple of things that maybe aren't the healthiest and stick by that and really try to enjoy those things so that you're having some time throughout the season where you're enjoying food and sort of celebrating the Christmas season. If you tell your brain that you're not having any Christmas cookies, any Christmas dessert, it's just going to backfire. And then you end up just kind of falling way off track. Allow yourself some space for a couple of treats this season. But when you eat them, then truly enjoy eating them, right? Not with the kids screaming, not talking politics with the family, right? Really sit down and focus and embrace what you're doing.
That's so
Doctor, do you have yours picked out, Dr. Bitner, what you're going to have?
I actually love fruitcake.
Oh.
So I would like a piece or two of fruitcake. I love peppermint ice cream and then of course all the, just turkey. But I think about all the other stuff that I might eat that I really don't enjoy that much. Like, why would I waste on that? I'm going to really. So what about you?
My mom makes these weird peppermint shaped cookies, and she always makes them for my birthday, which my birthday is very close to Christmas. So I'll probably have a couple of those with a nice cup of coffee and enjoy myself, because that's like what I do when I'm young. So
very cool.
Yeah. All right. Number 5, last one. Mindful eat. We've talked a lot about mindful eating, right? One of the best things to embrace is not being distracted and truly allowing the time to eat and appreciate the food that you're eating. If you make a choice to have a cookie or have some fruitcake, right, you want to do it mostly quiet as you can and really hold it in your mouth and experience all that fruitcake has to offer. All right, guys.
Yep. It's
great. All right, we're going to all get back out there and get our to-do lists done.
Yes, miles to go before I sleep, but again, I am going to sleep. So again, prioritize your sleep, everyone. Stay healthy, stay well, and let us know how we can help.
Yeah, and we always love seeing our patients, and if you're someone in a variety of different states now, including Florida, you can check us out at truewomenshealth.com if you need help with some of your medical stuff.
There you go.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Be well. Happy holidays.